Fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme makes a whiskey.
Well, you like your celebrity whiskies, mate, so you can talk about that.
Sure, it's going to be kick-ass.
No, nice. Put that in there. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Not Another Whiskey Podcast. I am your host, Nicholas Polacki, joined as always by the beautiful Mr. Mitch Bouchard. Mitch, say hello.
Yo, yo, yo.
How's
Hello.
it going, man? Well, we have a cracking episode coming up ahead of us. We're going to be joined, of course, by Brendan a little bit later, which is exciting news. But we also just wanted to spend a little bit of time just now going through some of the news and some of the fun and exciting things that have been happening across the whiskey industry before Brendan Mccarron joins us for his weekly stampede into our show. Right, Mitch?
It's like weekly. I mean, this is like the third time we've had this guy on the show now. Honestly,
No.
it's like a bad smell that won't go away, mate.
He's the other Daz that just keeps coming back.
Right? We should just have them as co-hosts, man. Hey, before we get into that, what have you been up to since we haven't had a proper chat, I don't think, since New York, mate? What's been happening?
Travel, mate. As always, travel. But thankfully, have I been in Las Vegas since I last spoke to you? I think I probably have been.
You probably have, because you're there every second day.
I was in Las Vegas, then I came back from it. No, I think we did some other stuff. I was, last week I was in San Antonio, and that was amazing. So I don't know if you've ever been down there to San Antonio. They do like a river walk thing, which is cool if you go down to like where the Alamo is, kind of starts all around there, and then you can kind of come up the river. Up
The
to
car
some
rental place.
Yeah, the car rental place. That's it. Yeah, people go there to see all the old cars of America. It's phenomenal. So yeah, people line up. That's why people say never forget the Alamo, because the cars are so impressive.
It's good, mate. It's good.
Remember
I'm
the
glad you're
Alamo?
hanging out in car rental places. So it's nice.
Yeah, that's the life that I've now become.
I think the big question is, are you missing me after I left New York?
I am. I will be honest. It's different doing it like this. Like having not seen you for 7 years and then having you in my house, I was like, wow. Now I know why I've not seen you in 7 years. So that was fun. Fun for the reminder. No, all joking aside, it was brilliant to see you and Joe and to catch up properly. But yeah, what about yourself? What have you been up to?
Well, I mean, as soon as I left you, I jumped off the plane in Edinburgh and then hosted a load of folks around Scotland. I mean, that was a big one. It was 6 days, and I think we hit 10 distilleries, which was pretty cool. A couple of new distilleries that I'd never been to. So went round Craigellachie, which I've never done before, and also Knockdhu, which, as you know, so interesting fact for you, and I'm sure a lot of listeners know this already, but Knockdhu changed its name to a knock. Do you remember that when it came out? And the reason for that was Diageo didn't like it because it sounded too much like Knockando. So they're like, can you just change your name so people don't get confused? But people still get confused, apparently, because people going to visit Knockando still rock up to Knockdhu, which I can't imagine has happened for a while, because Knockando's been shut for a while, probably like 4 or 5 years now.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening there. If anyone from Diageo knows, give me a shout. Oh, I also went to Dalyun for the first time, which was kind of cool, considering, as you know, my house was built for the excise officer of Dalyun. So it was kind of cool walking literally down a hill to visit a distillery. That distillery is massive, man. There's so much room in it. It's unbelievable. You been drinking? Do you ever drink any Dalyun?
No, I don't. Not on the right. I have tasted, but I've not. It's not something. I don't even have a bottle of it behind me. I took a wee kind of look over the shoulder, but I've seen you've picked up a few bottles in the past. I think that you were.
Yeah.
You know.
Could you? Well, I mean, it's my tradition now, right? Because the house has the connection to Dalyun. I have to have it in the house. And if someone comes here for the first time, that's the drama I always give them straight off the bat, because it's like, well, this house was built for the distillery, so you need to drink that liquid. But tell me about that. I gave you a wee bottle as a little present. Did you you got stuck into that yet?
It's gone.
It's sharp.
No, it's still cracked. I took about a third out of it. The Glen Scotia.
Yeah.
Killer. Really great whiskey.
Right?
So that was that little 10-year-old duty free exclusive that you picked up.
Yeah, it was I can't remember, it was a cast strength. I think it was cast strength, right?
Yeah, it was 55 5.3% ABV, 55.3. I don't usually drink a lot of cask strength whiskey. And to be fair, I took one sip of this and I put water straight into it because I'm just not that person that likes cask strength whiskey. So I like to bring it down, but it's fun to see it come down in stages. So I did kind of drop feed it down a little bit. Probably brought it down to about 46 or 47 by the time, give or take. That's my guesstimate of what I was probably drinking it at. But man, it's delicious. It's a great. The quality of the liquid's spectacular, right?
Oh, it's so good. I mean, we need to get those guys back on the show again because since last time we were on, which I think is about a year and a half ago, they've been doing so much interesting stuff. Ian McAllister, great distillery manager as well. Really good chat. And, a big fan. Oh, I also had all the lads round. So Joe and Kobe went away and we had a lads night around at the house. Yep. Quite a lot of whiskey was consumed during that night. I'm not going to lie. What
do the lads consist of?
So Neil Strachan, who's the distillery manager, distillery ambassador for Brown-Forman. Yep. And then Tom Jolly, who runs Mccarron. He's the F&B guy up there. And then my other good friend, Colin Corson, who runs a guest house just up the road, right by Cardew Distillery. So a lot of whiskey boys. So it was a case of bringing out a load of bottles, bringing round a load of bottles. Had some very interesting drams. Nice. And an interesting hangover the next day. That was fun.
Well, that's what happens when you mix your ambassadors together, mate.
Right, exactly. Right, let's get on with the news, mate. There's been, as we record this, we've got a little bit of a lag. We're not going to lie because we've got a few episodes lined up right now. So this kind of new news is maybe a little bit old news to some people. So we'll apologize for that in advance, but hopefully some of you guys haven't heard about this. First thing I want to kick off with is the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Two things going on with them. The first one is they've released a 40-year-old. And the second thing is that they now hold the Guinness record for the biggest online whiskey tasting that ever happened, which is kind of cool. But this 40-year-old, mate, it's kind of cool. It relates to the age of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. So this 40-year-old was laid down in 1983, same year that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society was launched. It's going to be, how many bottles are we looking here again? 130 bottles. It's not going to be cheap, mate. It's going to be $3,000 a pop. But I love this bottle, the design of it. So there's no label on it. All the information is etched on the glass. And what they've done here is they've dipped this in a green wax, almost like a Maker's Mark style closing to it. But instead of red wax, it's green wax, and it takes up about a quarter of the bottle. So it looks kind of cool. Really, I mean, I don't know about you, man, but I love the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. I love going around there. They produce some really interesting bottles, and congratulations to those guys for being going 40 years now, which is pretty incredible.
Well, on to my least favorite subject, Mitch: celebrity whiskies.
It's your most favorite subject,
dude. So this one I'll try and read with a straight face. Jean-Claude Van Damme has launched an Irish whiskey. So Hollywood actor Jean-Claude Van Damme co-founded an Irish whiskey brand called Old Oak, named after Oak Leaf County in Derry, Northern Ireland. Now, this is a guy obviously who's made a lot of very, very famous movies, a lot of mixed martial art movies and things like that. His quotes: he was initially hoping to release a bourbon, but a chance meeting with a friend persuaded him to turn his attention to the Emerald Isle and put his name to the spirit from Northern Ireland instead. So, all right, I guess that's a thing now. Yep, so why don't you go back to the roots of finding an Irish whiskey is what he was told. Except those are not his roots. He's not from Ireland, has absolutely no connection to Ireland other than the fact that someone from Ireland went, hey, we need to sell a lot of this whiskey and now we need a celebrity to do it. That's my honest take on this, because there is nothing that Jean-Claude Van Damme has to do with Ireland or Irish whiskey or even having a passion for Irish whiskey. He said in his press release he wanted to launch a bourbon. It could have been anything. He could have said, I wanted to launch a tequila, but somebody came to me first through my agent and said, here's an Irish whiskey. So I have no intention of trying to promote this bottle of shit. It's a 3-year-old at 35 quid. Pick it up if you're a Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. If you're not, walk past it and go and find a better whiskey. Fuck.
It's.
Do you know
I
what?
mean, you think about the last celebrity bottling that we did, right? That we talked about on the show, I should say, and I think that was Rod Stewart, and it was almost the same kind of line, right? You'd think these guys would get their press releases together and put at least a bit of passion and a bit of homework into what they're talking about. I think Rod Stewart was the same, right? He's like, oh, I actually drink apple teenies, was it?
Yeah,
Or
I don't really
ridiculous.
like whiskey, but this one's different because if I put apple teeny stuff in it, then I can choke it down. Same for this. I'm sorry, but there comes a point where we need to start calling bullshit. This is bullshit. Like, it's produced in a craft distillery, not named near Belfast, so not even in Derry. Like, what are we talking about? All this stuff, it was named after something in Derry, but like, it just every single part of it, I'm like, I don't know. To me, it makes no sense to have a celebrity come on who clearly doesn't know what they're talking about and then run their mouth. And it won't be long until said celebrity does something that's not in line with whatever the brand wants to do. And then all of a sudden they need to backpedal and stuff. But this is clearly just, it's become like a recipe, and it's a recipe for celebrities that I'm like, okay, cool. You're a celebrity. You're famous for your acting and your talent and your skill set, and people know you. Now, what are you going to do? Not a music school or a talent school or try and pass on your skill set to someone else. I'm going to align with something that I have no idea about, that hopefully my agents will monetize it. And hopefully there's a company out there desperate enough to want to move enough of the liquid and not have the skill set or talent enough to go and build a brand. They're just going to align with the celebrity first because that's a quick and easy way to try and put something out into the market. I'm sick of talking about them. That most of them as well are mediocre. Most of them, I've yet to try one that I'm like, holy shit, this is brilliant. The only one that I've had so far that I thought this is actually pretty good was Flecha Azul, which was it's not even Mark Wahlberg's tequila brand, which is what he said when I saw him, which was, this isn't my tequila brand. I'm not walking out saying this is my tequila. This is a great tequila, and they asked me for investment, and I invested into them. So he put $3.5 million of his own money behind the brand to get them to the next stage. He wasn't like, give me 80% equity and you can put my name in the bottle. I'd love to see the deal that was structured with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Irish whiskey. Like,
so you guys might notice that Nicholas always does the celebrity whiskey news, and it's brilliant. I do that for a reason. You see how wound up he gets. It's like just winding him up and fucking letting him go here.
But to be fair, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%.
I really wanted the bourbon, but there wasn't the bourbon there, so now I'm doing Irish whiskey. All right, fucking. All right, cool.
Was that as Donald Trump done a whiskey? What was that?
Donald Trump doesn't do whiskey.
No, but that impersonation.
That wasn't. That was just that was a no-name idiot just talking about. Yeah, God. That was like. How these conversations, I imagine how they go.
I'll tell you the thing that annoys me most about this whiskey with JCVD, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Why did they not call it Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I know. The most obvious thing.
That's fucking...
So, this just reeks of a poor marketing exercise, and I actually feel sorry for the people that are going to be behind it. Don't drink it. Actually, I'm going to start saying, every time I start seeing a celebrity brand, that I'm like, this has got nothing to do with this person other than somebody trying to hawk a celebrity brand. I'm just going to call it balls and strikes. Don't drink it.
You know Jean-Claude Van Damme's pretty hard, right? He might come around your door.
Used to be. He's about 148 years old right now.
I reckon he could still kick fuck out of you, though.
I know, but he needs to catch me first. So...
very good. Right, let's get off JCVD and talk about some more serious news. Not Another Whiskey podcast is sponsoring a massive event over here in Scotland, which is pretty exciting. So we've just launched a whiskey event with that small company called Cairn. You guys might have heard of. We've talked about it a few times on the show. So we've decided to do this event called Whiskey Talks, which is going to be based in Aberdeen. And essentially, it's going to be like TED Talks for whiskey. It's going to be super punchy, half a day. We've got a great venue over in Aberdeen. And the podcast is going to be a sponsor of it. So if you're listening to this right now, go on the Cairn website. This is a blatant plug, Nicholas. I'm not going to apologize for it. But go on the Copper Cairn website, go RSVP if you're going to be in Aberdeen around about the 14th of November. Right now, we're sitting at about 60 RSVPs. So that's as we record this. Hopefully, it will be sold out by the time this episode goes out. But yeah, I'd love to see you along there. We've got some great guests, including our friend Daz. Charlotte Coyle from Ben Riach is going to be along. Neil Strachan, who I just mentioned earlier, is going to pop in along with Tom from Mccarron. My partner in crime at Copper Cairn is going to be there, Fraser Campbell. The both of us are going to be co-hosting this whole day, which is going to be a series of talks, including the likes of future trends within whiskey. We're talking about tourism within whiskey, and we're going to have a whole piece on what it means to be an ambassador, where we're going to pour some drams for everyone. It's going to be a great day.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure you're a part of that, guys. So on to other amazing things and other great days. Obviously, the Distillers 1 of 1 has come and gone. Mitch and I obviously brought on Daz to come and chat away when we were speaking about some of the stuff that they were doing with Bowmore, and specifically the Bowmore Stack bottling, which was the 55-year-old that they were putting into this auction. This was a fantastic 39 lot sale auction, all for an amazing charitable cause. There was about 200 guests from around the globe that turned up to attend this spectacular event on the 5th of October, and it raised an outstanding $2.248 million. £2.248 million. It was $2,715,815, which puts their combined total over the 2021 and 2023 Distillers 1 of 1 auctions have raised a combined total of £4.2 million for charity. So this really is a phenomenal amount of money and a really, really worthy cause as well. Mitch, some of the things that really stepped out here, obviously the Bowmore Stack. I know we had a bet on this. So
we did. Do you remember what we said?
Did Daz win or did you win?
I can't remember, mate. We need to go back in that episode and see what we all said. We should have done that before recording this. Let's say I won.
I think you did. I think you came closest. Like it was a staggering amount of money. So they broke the record for the most expensive. Brora as well, and was one of the most impressive bottles. And then our friend Deval Gandhi also sold Candle Blanc for £45,000, which is fantastic. And again, this is changing lives in Scotland for the youth projects in Scotland, and I just think it's fantastic. Mitch, can you remember what the Bowmore sold for?
I think it was like 450, something like that. I think you put your guess at like £2,685,000,000 or something like that.
Yeah, because the person that got closest had to buy you and Daz a beer, and I was like, well, in that case, maybe in 7 years, mate. Do you know what I mean? Maybe in 7 years. Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable to see that. So look, that's every second year. So it'll be interesting to see that. Well, next 2 years, mate, you need to get your ass over here. We'll actually go along. And maybe, the podcast will be that popular that we'll be able to put a bid in. Who knows?
Who knows indeed. I mean, I'd love to. Did you see the Brora Iris bottle? The 50-year-old.
Stunning.
1972. I mean, it's just an absolute. Guys, you should go on this. The Sotheby's have still a lot of these on they've got a digital catalogue of these, like the Glen Grant bottling's really beautiful piece of work, the Brora specifically, and the Bowmore Stack. These are absolute works of art. Like the packaging team behind some of these is just stunning. And you should all be really proud of the amount of effort and work that goes into this, because I know how difficult it is to put something like this together, having worked on the Mccarron side of things for a while. I mean, it's breathtaking.
It's like you've seen this for the first time right now, Nicholas.
No, they're just really, really nice. Like I was just going back over it. Like I was looking at the Sotheby's website on it, and it's even the way that they've set it up. It's nice to scroll through them all. Like Glenrothes 1970 and Dining Experience. They've got a Glenfarclas 55-year-old single cask bottlings. It's just really the amount of brands that stepped up. Tomatin, Gordon and MacPhail, Little Mill, Bruichladdich casks and things like that. Like it's really cool to see the industry just do something that's purely selfless and that's got such great benefit to the community.
It was interesting to see the actual bidding as well, because a lot of that was put on social media.
Yep.
It was kind of cool to see, you know, the people in the room versus the people on the telephone and everyone's reactions as
Yep.
things were going up. You could see the little pockets as well of, you know, that brand's table or the representatives from that brand as it was sold and it was going up and people getting excited from that corner of the room. So really cool to see that. But yeah, amazing result and great to see that all going to charity.
And was that you just every now and again skipping in, holding up your paddle to try and raise the roof on some different things?
Yeah, I wasn't there, mate. I wasn't there. I know Daz was, but I wasn't there. Daz was there in his Aston Martin Bowmore.
There you
go.
Nothing says raising money for charity than turning up in $1 million motor car, right?
Exactly. But anyway, on to other news. I just got an email through, and I forwarded this just yesterday, I think it was. It was from the Ardbeg committee. So looks like there's a new Ardbeg about to drop with which is called the Ardbeg Anamorphic. So we don't really know much of this as we talk about it right now, but
he's
from
the new
marketing video,
director. Anamorphic. No.
Very good. But again, one of Dr. Bill's crazy releases, he's talking that it's creating this 4D whiskey. There's a really cool video on a YouTube video that we'll link in the bottom of here. But basically what they've done is they've scored the barrel ends and really heavily charred them to get, I'm assuming, even more of the cask coming through. But not a lot of information on that right now, but kind of cool to see that. We're still in conversations with Dr. Bill about getting him on the show. So hopefully that will happen very soon.
I think he's ignoring the phone calls, Mitch. I think we've done far too much.
He answered the phone call. Nicholas, he answered the phone call, and you will do an impersonation right now of how he answered the phone call.
Hello, Mitch. How are you? That's not how he sounds. That's the worst part about this impression. It's not even a good impression.
I know. Well, Q, on that note, why don't we get Brendan on to do an impression?
Speaking of our in-house caricature stroke impressionist, Brendan Mccarron is just about to join us on this little interview we're going to screen now. He will break some news. He's left the still, which was a shock to us, based on all the amount of amazing work that he's done there. But we kind of let him explain why. To some degree, he's got a few things that are going on that are a little bit hidden that he can't quite get into the full depths of. But it was a pleasure, as always, to touch base with Brendan, to talk about whiskey, to talk about the future of what he sees in the whiskey industry and some of the exciting things that he's been up to. So roll on, Brendan.
Here it is. Give it up.
Woo! Gentlemen.
Hold again. For applause. Hold for applause.
Are you going to do the applause? Oh, wait.
We have got applause.
I think so. Yeah. Hold on.
No, it's not. There's a meow.
No.
There you go. Hold for meow.
Was surprised. Do surprise.
Whoa.
Oh, it's actually surprise. Can you hear that, Brendan?
Nope, not a thing. It's
not a thing at your end. It's just an our end. Well, for our recording purposes, we've got some pretty cool. There you go. We're getting. Which is.
Dude, so great to have you back, man. And
yeah.
You now hold the record for the most amount of guest appearances on the show.
Brendan, you've actually been in this show more than I have. So that's impressive. So thanks for having me back as a guest on your show, the Brendan Mccarron Not Another Whiskey podcast.
Well, it's great. It's great to be back, and trust me, this is the last time you two speak. I'm just going to speak now for about 60 minutes about me. But no.
So, mate, what's been happening? It's a Sunday right now. It's I don't know what time.
Yeah, basically, I've been very busy. I missed out on the whiskey show. I was meant to go to the whiskey show in London this weekend, which I was super excited about because, well, basically, I love the Whiskey Exchange and Don Davies in particular, who's amazing. But I had to pull out. At the last minute. So I've actually just been up the road this weekend. But yeah, everything's been good. Life's been busy.
Well, mate, there's some big updates going on, right? We had a WhatsApp message, which you surprised me with, and hence the reason you're on the show. So last time we chatted, you were at Distill as their master blender, head of production, big cheese. And that's no longer the case.
Yeah, so I think I was officially master distiller. But yeah, I kind of looked after distillation, maturation, sort of whiskey strategy, if you like. I had a that didn't look after it, but I had an input on that, and whiskey making. Yeah, and I was there for just over 2 years, 2 years, 2 months, 2 years, 3 months, and yeah, in May, I think it was May or June, around about my birthday. I made the decision. I had a couple of random conversations with a few very amazing random people, and I realised I've always wanted to eventually.
You know what? See, for a minute there, Brendan, sorry to interrupt you. I thought you were going to say, I had a couple of whiskies and I just thought, fuck it. You had a couple of conversations. I'm like, oh, that went a different direction where my brain went. I just thought I had a couple of whiskies. I thought, fuck this. Don't want to go to work tomorrow.
I've done that many times. That's how I ended up married. And
she says the same thing, to be fair.
Oh gosh. Every day since then she goes, fuck it, what have I done? It's so hard to get rid of him. How does he keep finding his way home? But no, I've always thought about being a whiskey consultant. I have been, privileged, I guess is the word, to get lots of experience and work with lots of incredible people and learn. Yeah, I'm going to say I know an awful lot about how whiskey is made, which is great. And I realised that in my job, much love to distill. I had a great 2 and a bit years there, but there was a bit where I was kind of like, I am given an awful lot here and not really getting a lot back, and I'm honestly improving this, improving that, improving this, improving that. And there was quite a lot of people who are starting distilleries or have had distilleries for, let's say, less than 10 years, who were saying, what do you think of your distillery? Do you want to come up and have a look? And I was going in there and saying, it's amazing, it's fantastic. Have you thought about doing this or doing this or doing this? And quite a few of them, which is a massive compliment, like genuinely, and I know this is going to come across as I'm being arrogant and being an arse and stuff, but a lot of them are saying, could you come and work for us? And I had to say to them, well, no, I can't. It's a conflict of interest. I work for a whiskey company. I can't. I says, well, I gave you that stuff for free, so just crack on with that. Just try that and try this. But loads of them just kept coming back. I got offered a couple of non-executive director roles, which sounds amazing. And ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, what that means, non-executive director, just means you don't get paid. But it does sound very fancy. Or you get paid a small
Both
amount.
Mitch and I are non-executive directors of this podcast. We know exactly what it means.
Non-executive directors. But
exactly.
But no, eventually, and it's actually there's a guy, David, I won't say his second name because I didn't get, I should have checked before the podcast if I could say who he was. But I sat on a flight back from Islay, as you do, and I think there could be a book written by someone, a coffee table book called Flights Back from Islay, where you just sit next to random people. You hear some of the most incredible chat that you've ever heard and pick up some of the most amazing bits of news and gossip and various other things. But I was standing next to this guy, David, and he's like, what is he doing? I was like, I work in the whiskey industry, master distiller for Distill. What do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm actually doing a bit of work for Distillery X. I'm being a bit vague here. I have to be. And he was chatting away and he's like, oh, what's the long-term plan? He says, that's amazing. Like your job's clearly going great. And I was like, oh, thanks very much. It sounds like you're doing pretty well, consulting here and there now. I says, I actually really want to be a whiskey consultant once upon a time, eventually, I says, but, I'm 40, I was 42 at the time. I'm now 43. I look like I'm 73, but I'm 43. And I was sort of talking to him and I went, yeah, I think probably like, he says, well, when are you thinking about starting? And I was like, probably 10 years time, something like that. 10 years, that was the time to do it. And he's like, can I just say everything you've described, what your plan, what you want to do, how you would play this business out, it's all correct. The one thing you've got wrong is the age. He's like, you're actually the right age right now. He says, right now is the time you should be doing this because you've got the connections, the experience, the knowledge, and the energy. He says, now's the time you do it. And then I came home and I still remember my wife just sort of looking at us like, she's clearly going, what's going on? Like, there's something going on. Like, there's something. She's like, I can see the back of your head moving. That you're clearly thinking about something. And then we started talking about it. And it took a couple of months. And then I went, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I think it was around about January, February that I decided. And then, of course, I just waited to the right time. The Distill has now become CVH, and I'm sure they have big plans for what they want to do. But I kind of, had a conversation with them saying, I've given you 2 very good years, and I think I've left the place in a way better place than I found it. And I think it's now time to say to them, look, best of luck and crack on. But also, I'm going to head off and do my own thing. And
Yeah.
here
So when you were talking about Distillery X, is that an insight because Elon Musk is building a distillery in Scotland, and this is you telling you breaking the news?
Well, that's it. Elon and I go way back, you know. And
No, that's great news, mate. Congratulations on all that. That's a big step for you to take. So, I mean, I suppose when you look at this whole part of what you're doing, and we chat about all these new distilleries that are coming online all the time. The ones we just literally recorded an episode where we talked about new releases within new distilleries. So how are you going around and what's the business model for Brendan Mccarron Limited? Is it looking at distilleries that exist already? Are you getting offers from people that are about to open distilleries, or is it a mixture of both?
yeah, it's a mixture of all of those things, basically. So probably when I set out, I thought I can go and work for a couple of distilleries that I know that are just switched on. So let's say switched on within the last 5 years. And I know for a fact that, I mean, I would love to build my own distillery and run it, because I know that I can do it from start to finish. I've been a master distiller. I've been a master blender. I've done every single malt star. I've done every step of making whiskey. So I would love to build my own distillery, but I know for a fact that the primary challenge of it is to have enough money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to build a distillery, and then it's a lot of money to commit it to the future to build it. So what tends to happen, and this is not a criticism whatsoever, is people think about, can we get enough money together first? Then they get the distillery built. And I always love analogies, but I think whiskey and fine dining, really, the analogies play off really well. It's almost like building the finest kitchen, the kitchen capable of delivering 3-star Michelin meals, and not thinking quite about the menu until opening night. So there's a lot of people who start up their distillery and they just suddenly go, right, okay, we've managed to secure some barley, we've managed to secure this, right, let's go. And they're not quite sure what to do. And of course they'll figure it out. They're very bright people, and they're very entrepreneurial, and they've built a distillery. But I'm actually quite handy to come in just every so often, a day, a week for some people, a day a month for some other people. There's other people who are a day every 3 months. And you just come in, you just sort of do a little bit of it's not quite auditing. You just look at it and you say, well, I think this that you're doing is great. I would think about trying this. Do you want me to teach your staff? Do you want me to train people? Or do you want
like
me
a
to
health check?
Yeah. It's kind of like the best thing, again, back to cooking, and I mean this in a respectful way. So imagine every so often he goes to a restaurant that's really good, but he's got some ideas for how they can be better. And it's like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, which is like my favorite TV show ever. But the British one, rather than the American one, which is kind of a wee bit hyped up and over the top. But he would go in and he just sort of say, like, you're overcharging for this, or you're not doing this quite right, or see if you just ran this a little bit differently, it'd be way easier to do. And with distilleries, it's kind of like I've got some of the answers because I work for Diageo, I work for Moët Hennessy, I work for Distill. I have access to knowledge about 40 distilleries that I've ran, and I can just sort of say to them, this thing that you're doing, I would just get rid of that straight away. This thing you're doing, I think it works, but why don't you try this or try this? And then just slowly, it's about helping distilleries improve their quality or make more if they can. It's about, and then the other thing is they'll say stuff like, oh, we need to get a hold of casks. We're trying to get some sherry casks for a special release, or wine casks or this. And I'm like, I know someone you can speak to this person, speak to that person. So you just become a bit of like just an advisor. And it's I must say, it's really, really nice. I loved being the big cheese, as you introduced me at the start, and being in charge and being able to just direct people and try and do this and do that. But it is also pretty cool. You go into like places that are new and they're not struggling, but they really need to know what they want to do. And it's quite cool to be able to sort of say, look, this is what I would do. I would do this, 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 and this. And whether you do all 4 of those things, 3, 2, 1, or 0 of them, that's your choice. But this is what I would do. And just off you go. And it's pretty cool. You get some people who will take on everything you say, maybe even a wee bit too much. So you actually need to then call them back and go, listen, you're just actually doing everything I say. That's not right. I'm just trying to offer it. And you get other people who take, just one of your things and work with it. But just over time, you just go back and forwards, check in, see how things are going. And that's one part of the model. And then the other part is I'm designing a couple of distilleries because once upon a time when I was fresh-faced, young, hairy, and didn't require glasses, I designed a distillery for Diageo called Rosario. So I worked on the design of that. I am a chemical engineer to trade. So I also do a little bit of distillery design now as well. So there's a couple of distilleries that are just drawings on a piece of paper. And I'm honoured to be brought on as like a technical flavour sensory advisor to design what these distilleries want to create.
So you're like the Tiger Woods of the drinking world, then, aren't you? Like you
Well,
moved from playing the game to designing the courses.
I hope no. I really hope my wife doesn't chase me up the driveway with a 7-iron because she's actually pretty good at golf. So
I want to go back to that Gordon Ramsay thing, though. I'd like to see that as a series. I'd watch that. You just going into distilleries, just tearing them apart, and
Yeah, see that would be cool, but genuinely. The only
I think you'd last one distillery before you get your head smashed in, to be fair.
It's raw. It's raw. I just want spirit. But no, most of the places I go to, they are doing stuff great. It's just sometimes you're like, you're leaving that vessel for 30 minutes with the hot water in it. Why are you doing that? And it's the answer we always hear, isn't it? Well, that's what we've always done. And then that's a bit where you go, so when I was at Diageo, frankly, we did experiments across 20 distilleries. We found that you don't need to leave that hot water in there, move it out, and then you can do this, you can do that. And then suddenly, hey presto, they can make 10% more spirit, or they can tighten up the quality, or they don't impact this or they don't impact that. It's a very cool way to do it. But it is about try to be a helper and an advisor, not someone who's coming in and giving people instructions saying you must do this. I think if you start doing that,
are we talking about Scotland here or all around the world?
So initially it was Scotland, and Scotland's been great to me. I must say, like, I'm looking about for some wood because I cannot believe quite how well the business has kicked on. Because it is, you have a minor, in fact, a major panic attack when you step out on your own, because I've got a kid, I've got a mortgage, I've got, a very patient wife, but even the most patient
and
wife.
You've got another family in Egypt as well, don't you? All those business trips. Like, come on.
So
sorry, we'll let it out.
No, we won't.
How on earth, how is this all going to work? But the work in Scotland, it's been really cool. I must say, like, the work in Scotland just came streaming in. It's been great. A lot of people just said, like, I want to have a word. There's people like, God, I'm probably going to start calling out people's names without, I shouldn't have, like Dr. Bill Lumsden recommended me to some people. Richard Forsyth Jr. recommended me to some people. Allen Associates, which is a very famous whiskey designer, chemical engineering company, started recommending me to some people. Some other people who I know I can't say, just came to us and said, look, we need you to come and work for us. So it genuinely became like a Scotch whiskey advisory business really quickly. But I am now working in Ireland, Japan, China, and America. So it's going fairly international.
Nice, mate. Very cool. So does that mean some trips over to the US to visit Nicholas here?
Hopefully. So I was going to be coming to New York late October, but it's been not cancelled, it's been postponed. So yeah. But I will, and when I'm there,
know when you're here.
Oh yeah, I'll take you for a dram, mate. I'll take you for a dram. But because I'm a consultant, I'll buy the
Sounds like you're doing better than I am. You can pay. I'll let you take me for a dram.
Don't forget, I'm a consultant, so I'll buy the drinks, but I'll then invoice you.
Exactly.
So I see you got a wee whiskey there, Brendan. What are you drinking?
So I'm actually drinking some Hazelburn. So it's a fill your own Hazelburn. A guy at a distillery I work at, which I am not allowed to mention legally, unfortunately, is a big whiskey fan as well. He's a great guy. So I will try and work out a way to get him on this podcast, because he is like fantastic. New blood, new talent coming into the industry. Him and his partner went up to went down to, I should say, Campbelltown just for a trip, and he sent me a text message going, do you want to buy any of these whiskies or go halfers on any of these whiskies? And I was like, and he sent like a list. It's a shame because he actually typed it out really neat and stuff like that. And I was like, all of them, all of them, as much as you can fit in the car.
Take my money.
I will buy all of it. So it's a 14-year-old Hazelburn in Oloroso, just only available at the distillery, and it's as you'd expect.
Nice,
nice.
Good Sunday dram. So. Brendan, I think you're in a good position now to answer this question. State of the Scotch whisky industry with regards to distilleries. And then I want to take that a little bit further and talk about it sort of worldwide. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with Scotland then. I think the state of Scotch whisky is, and I am a avid user of Reddit Scotch, r Scotch, and it's a dangerous place to have an opinion. But I think the quality of Scotch whisky has never been better. I really believe that. I think the people say, oh, but there's this whisky I had from the 1980s that sat in its bottle for 15 years and it's just this unbelievable thing. And I'm like, that's true. But think about the context. Think about your state of mind when you go into drinking that, and think about how much love and care went into making that. And then think about the people who made that have learned, progressed, developed, and understood more things than they ever have. So I think quality-wise, I think Scotch is in an amazing place, an absolutely amazing place. On the other side, there's lots of new distilleries opening, which is fantastic, but I really hope it's not too many, and I hope that some of them, I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but I hope no one's overstretched, because it's going to be a challenging couple of years. The price of barley is insane. When I was a young man in the whiskey industry buying barley, you'd be paying about £300 for a ton of barley. Last year I paid £1,000 for tons of barley. It's just insane numbers. It's softening, but it's never going to go back to £300 for a ton of barley. Never. So prices are up. You know the same with your own homes. If you're getting an extension, or if you're just trying to heat your home, steel's up, copper's up, energy's up. It's an expensive game. So I think there's a bit of caution, I hope, the Scotch whisky industry exercises. Don't want to be super bullish and just go gung-ho and make as much as you possibly can. I don't think that's the time right now. But as I say, I think the quality is fantastic. I think the talent in the whiskey industry is phenomenal. I do love the fact that the whiskey industry, okay, I'm maybe opening myself up to a bit of criticism here, but I joined in 2006, and there was as many men as women joined in my graduate scheme when I went into Diageo, and I found it quite a diverse place. Not as diverse as it should be, but I found it quite a diverse place. But I think the diversity in whiskey is increasing constantly. I think there's way more inclusion of, whatever sexuality, whatever identity you have, whichever gender you identify with. I think there is way more openness in the whiskey industry, and I think that's essential, because we can't just keep being dinosaurs. And I'm aware that I'm saying that as an old white man. So, but I think that's amazing. And then on the other side of that, I think sustainability is being taken seriously. Actually, there's a bit of greenwashing, and there'll always be a bit of greenwashing. People try to claim they're, I don't know, replanting a peat bog somewhere, and that's going to make a difference. It's not. But there is huge millions and tens of millions of pounds being spent by distillers to drive through technology and find ways to make distilleries even more sustainable, which I think is going to be enormous for the Scotch whisky industry. So
Pernod Ricard released a blueprint on that, didn't they? And just gave it out to people. Which was we've spoken about in the show before as well. Is really good to see.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and absolute kudos to Pernod Ricard, but it's also essential. It's essential if Scotland was to be, this very unsustainable style of whiskey, because they just stuck to traditions through thick and thin. It wouldn't take long before all the other whiskies were just massively more sustainable, and you would notice consumers would just move and go, right, we're done drinking your stuff. We love the way it tastes, but we will not drink this stuff. So it's kind of like essential as well as, but definitely hats off to Chivas for doing it.
I mean, on
Now,
that point, Brendan, we've got pretty sort of hefty targets here in Scotland for distilleries for, sustainability wise, 2030. I think it's carbon neutral for production, 2050 for everything. Do you think that's realistic as we move forward?
Yes, I think it's realistic. I think it's absolutely essential as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, I'm a big believer in setting goals, not targets, but set a goal of 0. You know for a fact that 0 is not achievable, but if you aim for 0, you're going to miss, but you're going to miss by the tiniest amount. And that's better than aiming for, let's reduce by 10%, because we're all human. If you reduce by 10%, you'll reduce by 10% and then go, right, I'm done. What's next? So you might as well have lofty goals and really stretching ambitions. And if you land somewhere near it, it's going to be amazing. But basically, in Scotland, there has to be a combination of reducing down the amount of energy that's required to distill this amazing liquid that we make, as well as creating the energy we require from greener sources. So it's not just one or the other. It's not just, we can burn hydrogen. That's super clear. That's what we'll do. Don't just burn hydrogen without ever looking at making your distilleries more efficient or requiring less energy. Just do the two things at the same time, and eventually you'll hit this kind of lovely tipping point where suddenly it's just so much easier to do. Now, the big challenge for that is there's lots of people who cling to things like, I want floor maltings, I want direct fired stills, I want the old fashioned low gravity way of doing this or doing that. And there's a bit of that goes, like, that's nice that you're saying that. And I think it's a misplaced trust that makes better whiskey. But
is that holding on to the romance of it, you think? Like the romantic side of Scotland and whiskey making?
Yes, there is a massive bit where some people need to step away from the romance and slightly marketed story of what Scotch is versus this is how much energy it requires to make this amazing product. And you're going to have to unpick that a little bit. So it's not a drive for efficiency. I don't want every whiskey to taste like vodka. I mean, Jesus, that'd be horrendous. But there is a bit of a challenge of, you can say I love it this way and I love it that way, but you have to think about what's the things that are making the industry way more sustainable. Because the world, which is the other part of your question, Mitch, like world whiskey. So Japan has went through its transparency laws, and they're now starting to build a lot of distilleries. And from what I've seen, I'm not an expert, but what they're building is incredible. And the raw materials coming in. I'm a huge fan of Tasmanian whiskey. I think some of the stuff they're doing in Tasmania is just fantastic. I don't need hyperbole it too much. Ireland is finally waking up from being, 3 distilleries to actually having some variety, some diversity, some craft, and I think that's going to be amazing. So, I am a proud Scotsman, and I always want Scotch whiskey to remain the best whiskey on earth, because it is the best whiskey on earth. But we're going to have to pull up our collective socks because the competition is serious. They're doing some really amazing stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. And especially, looking at things like Japan, where obviously we've got our brand. Even for us, like there's some stuff that's going on there that you're like, this is really cool. Like currently the distillery we work with in Niigata is 40% powered by solar. And we just bought a geothermal hot spring in Tusagawa and built on top of it. And the geothermal hot spring powers the entire secondary unit for distillation and everything. All the power source is just completely and utterly from just using what's around to be smart about their energy sources. Yeah,
it's that combination of find nicer ways to create the heat you require for distillation, and by its nature, you're always going to require heat. But then at the same time, work out ways to just be more responsible with the energy that you use, And those examples like Japan, There's some stuff in America that I can't really talk about that I'm working on that is unreal. It's like Blade Runner stuff, you know, the way they're. And if this thing kicks on, it's going to be incredible. And it's not about. And some people roll their eyes, and that's fine. Don't believe me if you don't want to. I don't care. It's not about saving money. This isn't a money-saving exercise. It's about saving carbon. It's about being more sustainable. It's about long-term success of a brand.
Right, Brendan. So, scenario for you. Someone comes to you and they say, I've got unlimited budget for you to build your own distillery. What does that look like? Where is it? What do you do?
Yeah. Okay. So this is quite easy because this is just basically my dream. So I'm from
pitch your dream. Then this is it. This is like you on Shark Tank, right? Someone out there's listening, right? So this is a Dragon's Den.
So I'm originally from Coatbridge, which
I'm out. Sorry, is
exactly.
That I'm out straight away. Like
I know it's quite an international crowd listening, but Coatbridge is not the bonniest town in Scotland, and it's a bit of a mining village and stuff. But I live in Stirling, and I don't live in Stirling. I live in Cambusbarron. So Cambusbarron, this little village on the outskirts of Stirling, where my wife is from. I'm just motioning over my shoulder because I know my wife's in the next room, and I've realised that this is an audio.
Standing behind you with a knife, mate.
So Cambusbarron had a distillery, sounds similar to another one, but it was called Glenmurray. So Glenmurray Distillery was built in Cambusbarron. It was the second oldest distillery ever in Scotland, licensed distillery. It went out of business, even though it ran for like 100 years. It went out of business before somewhere like, say, Glenmorangie existed. So in this village, and you guys know, there's 3 Scots guys here chatting. Scotch whiskey isn't as loved in Scotland as it should be. You know, the knowledge is way bigger in America and China and everywhere else. But there's people who have lived in this village their entire life. No, I've never heard of this distillery. And I was like, there's a distillery. So we have no idea where it was in Cambusbarron. None. I have done some investigating, as has a guy called Keith Law. So Keith Law used to work on Johnny Walker. He lives in my street. So I've got a master blender who lives 10 doors from me to the left. Ron Welsh, who used to be the master blender for Beam Suntory, just retired. He lives 10 doors from me that way. So I live in a tiny little street that's got 3 master blenders on it. And we all are obsessed about this distillery, Glenmurray. So if I got the
wait a minute, is this one of these situations where you're not allowed to walk in the street at the same time? Because if there's a car accident, like, it would wipe out 40% of master blenders, and like, what's going on?
Let me tell you, see during the COVID, when you were allowed to take your dog out for a walk once a day, so I'd go out for a walk with the dog, and just come out with whiskies, and you just leave a couple of bottles of whiskey in Ron's door, and I'd leave a couple of bottles of whiskey, sample bottles, and we're getting delivered out on Keith's store. And then I'd go away with the dog around here, up into the Cambusbarron forest, and then back down. And by the time I got back, there'd be a couple of wee bottles of whiskey for Keith and a couple of wee bottles of Aston Martins, in particular for Ron Welsh.
Very
I think
nice.
it's been 3 years now where he's like, do not tell anyone you have this. Do not.
Nice.
But yeah, that's the distillery I would build. I would love to build Glenmurray Distillery in Cambusbarron and make lowland whiskey. Like, I cannot wait to see what Rosebank do, because that's exciting. I mean, that's just really, really, really exciting. I actually seen Lenny Russell outside the Worshipful Company of Distillers dinner, and I think I was far too excited after a couple of glasses of red wine and a few whiskies. I think I probably scared them into submission, but I just wanted to tell them how excited I was that Rosebank was reopened, and I hope it's a success, and I know it will be a success and stuff. And he was very polite, and he said, "Oh, thank you." But I think he was desperately clawing for a security guard or something to take away this Becky Ball guy that was screaming in his face.
So that's it then.
Fanboyed him.
So you've heard it here first then, folks. If you want to give us a call or reach out to us on Instagram or through the website, we're doing a fundraiser. We're going to see if we can raise the funds. We'll do a capital raise. Yeah. We'll see if we can put 20 million in a bank account, and that'll about cover it, right? I would imagine 20.
So Cambusbarn is also called the home of Bruce's Well. So Bruce's Well, Robert the Bruce. So for the non-historians, but if you've seen the film Braveheart, the film about a Scottish person played by an Australian with blue paint on his face. But the final scene, William Wallace is already somewhere else, no spoilers. And Robert the Bruce throws the swords. So it was the Battle of Bannockburn. Robert the Bruce was right where I am right now, where my house is pretty much, and there was a well, and they drank out of this well, and they drank the holy water, and then they carted lots of this water down to the battlefield, and they blessed the field. The well is gone. The place of it is there, but the well is gone. But they're pretty sure the cornerstone of the biggest stone in the well was used as the cornerstone for Glenmurray and Cambusbarn.
Oh, wow.
So just everything I read about this distillery, I'm just like, oh my God, this is like the dream distillery. The story
Holy Grail.
Yeah, it's literally the Holy Grail. Right next to Deanston. I mean, it just writes itself. Yeah.
Well, Brendan, we're going to have to wrap this up here, but amazing to have you on the show. Again, Thank you so much for your time. Brilliant to hear about what you're doing, man. All the best with that. I mean, I was going to say good luck, but I don't think you need it. But what I want from you, you haven't done an impersonation yet, so I need one. And we've had who have you done so far? I think you did Bill Lumsden the last time, Alan Partridge. We've had that.
I had a little taste of Trump earlier.
I did.
You said China
earlier. Every so often I do China, Sleepy Joe. What else have we done? Who was the other one? I did Dr. Bill. That much is true, Mitch, and it's great to see you, Nicholas. Alan Partridge, stop getting Bond wrong. But for this one, probably I'll finish with the original, and I've got the glasses for it as well, which is a coincidence. But over the years, the brandy and the cigars have started to take effect. It's dropped by an octave or two. She was only 16 years old. 16 years old.
That is brilliant.
Amazing, mate.
Great to see you, mate. Thanks for coming on.
All right, Brandon, take care, man. See you soon. Need to catch up for a drink.
Yes, definitely. Come see us, boys.
Cheers, mate.
See you soon. Bye.
Brilliant.
Oh,
he properly he's like, I'm out.
He's like, peace out, bitches.
All right, so amazing interview, as always, from our good friend Brendan. Interesting to see what he's doing, mate. I mean, you kind of think that there's going to be a lot of business for him with the way the whiskey market is right now.
Yeah, he's basically just taken this whole championship of the gig economy that everybody's found himself in and been like, I'm going to go do that for whiskey now.
Should we open up a distillery with him? That'd be cool.
I think that would be not another whiskey distillery.
There you go.
Not another whiskey tour. Yeah. Mate, this is it. I'm going to put it out there already. So let's speak to Billy Walker. He knows how to raise money for distilleries. Right, Billy, we want a distillery. It's going to be called Not Another Whiskey Distillery. So go find us one, and then also find us.
Brendan's going to design it for us. Billy can run it. There we go. Easy.
And we'll have Brendan come in and consult, tell us all the things we're doing wrong every other week. He'd be the busiest man in Scotland just doing that.
Totally. All right. Well, Nicholas, let's wrap this up. As always, thank you to everyone for listening. We always appreciate it. We love you guys out there. Enjoy your next dram, whatever it's going to be, and we'll see you next time.
Indeed. Please make sure to hit that follow button on whatever you're listening and streaming this podcast on. We do appreciate every single last one of you. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye.